It is a brand new edition of Flyers Daily for November 18th. One game into a 5-game homestand. It started out pretty good. Flyers Daily presented by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. He joins us every Monday. It's a little episode we call Mondays with Meltzer from PhiladelphiaFlyers.com and NHL.com. It is Bill Meltzer. Don't look now, Bill. Here come the Flyers.
Yeah. After the 1-5-1 start, they're up to Hockey 500. I mean, that was the... obviously that's not an end point, but that was a place to get to, and they're playing a lot better in general. Not so much the Ottawa game, but certainly the San Jose game and the game against Buffalo. The Flyers deserve the wins. So
I look at that Ottawa game and I go, okay, you found a way to win when you had no business winning. I mean,
Correct.
The cops chased them out of Buffalo for stealing that game.
Yeah,
to come out of that with a win, because I thought through the first 50 minutes of the game, they were pretty horrid.
Yeah.
But they found a way, and they're getting the goaltending. But how do you explain, that start, and now all of a sudden in their last 11, 7-3-1? What are the elements that you're seeing that's leading to it?
Well, it's really been a progressive thing. It started out with reestablishing a semblance of defensive structure, which has gotten better and better. So taking away the middle of the ice, not giving up so many top quality chances, improving breakouts, getting out of your zone more, moving up the ice as 5-man units. So you're actually generating, whether off the rush or off the forecheck, generating more time up ice and attacking. Power play has still been a bit spotty. The power play was really carrying almost everything for the first 8 games. It's come
back to earth.
It's come back to earth and struggled a little bit. I do think that they need to adjust and figure out the units again. And figure out some strategic things as well. But bookending that has been the 5-on-5 play has gotten better, and they've gotten some rewards in the last couple games. And honestly, if you're able to play 5-on-5, you're a good 5-on-5 team, because power plays, even the best ones in the NHL, are going to run hot and cold. Yeah. So if you're able to compete 5-on-5, I mean, there will be some games where special teams could win it for you, but if you can hold your own or win the game 5-on-5, you're going to win more than you lose in this league. So I think these elements would come together. And of course, last but most certainly not least is the goaltending piece. The goaltending has been pretty good lately. So,
and for a lot of that, Bill, Ersson hasn't been in there a whole heck of a lot. After the start that the first 3 games that Ivan Fedotov had, now all of a sudden. Look, it doesn't look much prettier than it did, but pucks aren't going past him. His body language is starkly different. He looks like a confident goaltender. And John Tortorella said that he's just competing harder. And look, sometimes getting comfortable is a byproduct of being comfortable. When you're first there, you almost don't know how to compete because you're not sure what to expect moment to moment in an NHL game because he hadn't been there before.
For sure. And I think there are a couple of moments from the Ottawa game that stood out for me in those regards. There were a couple times where either something had broken down in front of him, or he had an initial little bit of a misplay himself, but he ended up using that huge frame of his to be able to make saves, whereas those were in the net before that. So really, if he has to adjust to the fly, if he has to make a desperation save, and obviously you don't want desperation saves, but he's coming up with those, he's while it still doesn't look pretty at times, it's not as all over the place as he was at the beginning. So John Tortorella uses the term, he's starting to look the part, right? And I think that's the best descriptor of it.
Yeah, and that's a weird, like, you can't almost quantify looking the part. But it's like, it when you see it. You go, okay, that he looks like a legit NHL goalie now. And look, I don't know where it goes for Fedotov from here. I really don't. I think a lot of that will depend on, obviously, the health of Ersson when he comes back. If Kolosov gets back in there, I'm not sure how those competitive elements will affect him. Some will say, though, that when Kolosov came up, that's kind of when he flipped a switch as well. I think that's more happenstance than kind of the fact of the matter.
Yeah. I think to a degree, in regard to the happenstance element, there were a couple starts in here where Ivan hasn't been able to overthink things, right?
Yep.
He's been kind of pressing the service last second. And the funny thing was, during his short time with the team last year, his best appearance was the first one, which was a relief outing, and had no time to think about it. Just go out there.
And his best save was on Barzell right away when he got in on a breakaway.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, obviously, every goalie would be able to. We'd rather be able to prepare for a start and know what's ahead. I'm not saying the key is just spring things on them.
Yeah.
But it is showing, it is showing that he can go out in a pinch and deliver with I mean, Sam Ersson had been in such a good groove and got injured, came back, kind of picked right up where he left off, was looking really good, and went down again. And given where the goaltending had been before that could have been a kiss of death, where the Flyers could be in a pretty long winless or flat out losing streak right now. And here they are at 8-8-2, and the goaltending has been an important piece of that.
Yeah, it's funny because, I mean, if the goaltending fell apart, they're playing out the string by Christmas.
Yeah,
that's literally where they would have been given the early hole they dug. And for Fedotov too, I think there's something to that, what you said, though. For a goalie that's coming over, probably getting a lot of instruction, a lot of input and from his coaching and all of that, not having to think about it, having it sprung on you, maybe does help him in some way in that as well. Bill, let's talk about the D, and let's start with one of the Travises, because we're going to talk about both. Sure. But Travis Sanheim, first of all, I've never seen John Tortorella so effusive in the praise of a guy that he didn't know what the heck he was as an NHLer a couple of years ago. Go back to the summer after Tort's first year here, and Sanheim signs the contract, and then he's all but traded, but Torrey Krug says no.
Correct.
I know you and I talked about at the time, sometimes the best deals are the ones you don't make.
Yeah.
But Bill, the maturation of his game, it took a big step last year, and I thought that was important, with his name out there, how he was going to handle that. And he said, I'm going to put my head down and prove it. And he went out and had a good year. This year, he's not having a good year. He's having a much even better year. And he's putting himself in a different pantheon of defensemen amongst the league.
No, for sure. Both sides of the puck, too.
Yeah.
Last year, the first quarter of the season, he was just about at the top of time on ice. He was eating a ton
points.
And playing well. He's playing the best hockey I've ever seen him play and we've seen his career from day one. And it's been a road for him. I mean, he came up during Dave Haxtell's years, right? And there was a lot of inconsistency, a lot of ups and downs. And I give him a ton of credit, because you go back those 2 years ago, and what was the purpose? What was the stated goal from 2 years ago? It was to decide who was going to be around and who was not going to be around.
Who's going to be a part of it and who's not. Yep.
Right. And we can't sugarcoat it. Travis is on the list of guys who I don't think John Tortorella really wanted around beyond that first year. It worked out where Torrey Krug refused to trade to Philadelphia, and thank you, Torrey Krug, because that's really worked out well. And Travis Sanheim took it on himself. Like he's always been in good condition, but the last 2 years he's been in phenomenal condition coming to camp, just ready to go from day one in camp. I don't think people sometimes realize how important off seasons are in the season that follows for the player.
Yeah.
I think Travis Sanheim has been living proof of that. And also he had a little bit of a burr under his house. He wanted to prove something to himself, to the coaching staff, and whoever, but he came in with the right attitude, with the that he's going to earn everything that's given to him, and he's done that and more. He's become one of the team leaders in a quiet way. He's a leader by example. Travis is not a big talkative rah kind of guy, but he's kind of become the leader on the blue line, not just in terms of minutes, but just in terms of the role he plays, the situations you see him in.
There's been ends of overtimes where he can't even pick himself up anymore. He is spilling it.
Yeah. Well, he's had and
overtime
he'll stay out there on in one occasion it ended up in their net because he wiped out of the other end of the ice.
Yeah,
but
against Edmonton.
But that's going to happen sometimes. It's going to happen to anybody. Also, I think Bradshaw deserves a lot of credit here because you look at the collective body of work of the defenseman, and it's Bradshaw who runs the defense, who works with them on a day in and day out basis. John Tortorella sees the bigger picture things, right? He puts those pieces together, but in terms of the nuts and bolts and the various elements that go into preparing and playing and video reviews and those kind of things and what you point out, what you suggest, that's Bradshaw's work. So I think in this piece of the puzzle too that Bradshaw deserves a lot of credit too.
Yeah, it's just been amazing to see this ascension from the player, and all of a sudden, like if this is his prime, look, there's a lot of season left, but if this is his prime, that contract's a bargain and a half. There's just no two ways about it. I know that Alex Appleyard put out this tweet yesterday, and he said, given the minutes that Sanheim has gotten this season for the Flyers, if he keeps this up for 82 games, he would actually be playing like a true number one defenseman. 50-point pace, 53.98% expected goals for, 1.03 P-60. What is that? Points per 60?
60 minutes,
yeah. While facing the opponent's best players and playing with different partners for the most part. Yeah, because Cam York's been down. So what happens when Cam York comes back? It looks like Andre might be hurt now. Hopefully that's not got any length to that injury, but it looks like York's set to come back. So that's kind of good timing if you're going to have good timing when it comes to an injury.
Yeah, and I don't think Drysdale is going to be out very long either.
Yeah,
I think Andre played well enough to earn himself staying with the NHL team.
Yeah.
So I don't know how long Emil's going to be out. That's not clear right now. He's been playing really good hockey, and one of the most impressive things was when there was a bad play, or he's had a game or two that weren't his A game either, bouncing right back, and that's such an important thing with a young defenseman. But
he steps in the hole, but he doesn't fall in the hole, Bill.
Correct.
And a lot of rookies fall in the hole.
Yeah, where it snowballs, right? It's kind of I call it the Carl Dykhouse effect because when Carl Dykhouse was here as a young defenseman, he could be fantastic. There were games he was as good as Eric Desjardins, right? But then something would go wrong, and you lose him for the next 2 weeks.
Yep.
And that happens so many times with young defensemen, where things just snowball in the wrong direction after seemingly going well and knowing they're capable of playing at a certain level. So that's an opportunity was created for him when Cam York went down. Now Cam York should be coming back. Obviously, that's a crucial piece of the blue line puzzle. But I guess when you get healthy pieces, then you're gonna have decisions to make as to who your starting six are. Ideally, Eric Johnson, and congratulations on his 1,000th game, Derek Johnson. But Eric Johnson really ideally is your number 7. And if you're just carrying 2 goalies, and we'll see when the Flyers could go down to 2 goalies again when they have all 3 that are healthy, because they're without Sam Ersson a little bit here too. But they could afford to carry 8 defensemen. But I think you're better off carrying 7 than 8. Then it gets to be a little bit of a log jam.
Because whoever that other guy is needs to play.
Yeah. Exactly.
If Johnson's 7 and then whoever 8 is, or whoever 7 and Johnson's 8, doesn't matter. That guy needs to play. So just staying here and carrying him is not ideal.
No, I totally agree. If you're carrying the extra forward, sometimes you can carry that 14th forward. That's not a bad role. Where Nick Delorey is, because that depends on the matchups, who you're playing on a given night. If you need an extra guy to slot into your bottom six in a given game or whatever. I mean, Nick's always ready to play. So and he's not a kid, and he's not a kid who's just sitting out games. And I think that you're fine with that, but I think there's decisions that have to be made on the blue line, and then you're gonna have to decide who the other goalie is. They'll run with Ivan for a while. I think you'll see another start or two from Kolosov, especially depending on how long Sam Ersson is out. But I think there are decisions to be made, and hopefully they're made tough decisions.
And from a healthy standpoint too, when everybody's healthy, you can. If you're going to go through a little bit of an injury run, now's the time to do it. As long as you can keep piling up points, which they've been doing over their last 11. Yeah. Let's talk about Travis Konecny, Bill. In his last 6 games, he's got 12. He got 12 points in his last 6 games. He's got 6 goals, 6 assists, and he's just doing it in every way possible for this team. He has become such a catalyst, not just for them offensively, but for them, period, end of sentence, for in every element. I feel like he's their emotional element too. And just like we talk about Sanheim and that development on and off the ice. And I listen to the words Konecny speaks when he speaks with the media or in between periods or after games. And I just see leader written all over him. And boy, he's having a great start after signing that extension, which kicks in next year.
Absolutely. Well, the big term picture of the contract will be seen in future years, but in terms of the immediate return on going into the final year of its current deal, as you said, the new one kicks in next season. Whenever they need a burst of energy, right, or emotion, Konecny supplies that. The biggest compliment I can give any player, and I think this has been the case with Travis Konecny, has been whatever line he's been on, he makes the guys around him better.
Yeah.
Whoever it is that he's with, and that really is the mark of a guy who is really stirring the drink for your team. That wherever you happen to have him out there with, whatever situation you're using him in, he's the guy who drives things for your team. And I mean, the other part of it as well too is that as you said, some of the off ice stuff, right? Being a spokesman for the team as situations call on it. There was a time when he wasn't ready for that role.
Yeah.
But you see his maturation into a leadership guy, and obviously there are still pieces that need to be figured out. Players who they need to get producing.
Yeah.
Guys who are not producing up to the level that they're capable of producing. But one guy who absolutely is, night in and night out, has been Travis Konecny. And the thing with Konecny is he always has to be effective. He has to push the envelope. So he's going to take some penalties you don't like sometimes. He's going to have defensive miscues that you don't like sometimes, or if you're involved in a shift where a guy stays out too long, but you can't stay mad at him for it, because he will probably go out his very next shift and do something positive. They'll make up for it too. So the 2 Travises on the team, they've been so crucial as to why the Flyers are even at Hockey 500 right now, because there are still other things that need to be fixed and figured out. But those 2 guys right now in particular, they're playing some of the best hockey I've ever seen them play.
Yeah, I think both of them are. I think it's going back to Sanheim real quick. I think an element of his emergence over the last 2 years, it happens to coincide with the departure of Ivan Provorov. Yeah. And I don't think that's a small element of it. I don't.
No, it really created an opportunity for other guys. Yeah. Because when Ivan was here, you knew he was going to lead the team in ice time. He was going to be the guy in those situations. And also, it created that opportunity for those minutes for those situations, but it also created something too where a big piece of why the Flyers have gotten better as a group is the cohesion in the room. John Terrell brings that up all the time, and rightfully so, because how do the Flyers survive the 1-5-1 start? A big part of that was in that room where the group that hung together through last season, even through the disappointment at the end, they've really been tested by some adversity where you would see how close they really were. Were guys pointing fingers? Were guys secretly tried to get out of town? And nobody.
Yeah, not even off the record. You didn't hear any of that even off the record.
Right.
Yeah, which is that's when you know, okay, that they are still together. And I wondered about it starting this year with the way last year finished. If it was that going to continue, is that culture going to go year to year? And it's funny because when Torts was first hired, it was the first thing, we got to get that room right.
He did say that,
and that was job number one, because you can have all the talent in the world. If the room ain't right, you're not going to go anywhere. Speaking of going somewhere, where are we going with Morgan Frost? Well, sometimes when you get scratched as a player, it can be at the right time or the wrong time. If the team is struggling and not picking up wins, you got a chance to get back in quick.
Yeah.
If the team's playing really well and getting results, you could be on the shelf longer because you're getting results.
Yeah. And I mean, the Flyers did win that game in Ottawa, but they had no business winning it. Couturier being day-to-day in that situation created an opportunity for Morgan to get in for that game. And he had neither a good nor a bad game. He was just there in that game. Truthfully. I think everybody knows what a Morgan Frost guy I am and have always been since day one. But it was a pretty nondescript game. He wasn't good or bad. He needed to be better than nondescript in that game. Defensively, he was fine, right? But he needs to create. And right now, one thing that I've seen over the years, I've talked to Frosty about it a couple times too, is that when his confidence gets down sometimes, I think he starts to overthink things sometimes. And rather than when he's on, he's anticipating rather than reacting. And I think that when Morgan struggles, he gets very reactive and he goes to where the puck is rather than where it will be. And or it seems, even things like anticipating on faceoffs. He's been thrown out an inordinate number of faceoffs this year. He's just everything is just the wheels are turning in his head, and he's rather than just playing and playing instinctually, he's just overthinking things. He was good on the one thing that nobody brings up in a positive light was he was an important part of why the power play was clicking early on. Through the first 8 games, he had 4 power play assists, bang, 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 like that, and 3 of them were primaries. So he, to me, he still is an important part of the power play if it's clicking. But he can't just be a power play guy, and he hasn't been over his career. Last year, in the last 2/3 of the year before that, once he got in the lineup, he was pretty good at 5-on-5. You just need a little bit more consistency from game to game. I'm unpleasantly surprised where I thought that Morgan came to camp in phenomenal condition, probably the best, looked bigger, than I've ever seen look, and he had a pretty darn good camp too. Now he led the team in scoring in previous preseasons, actually back-to-back years, but it just looked like he was poised to jump out of the gates and have a really good year. And he did score the shootout winner in the opener in Vancouver. He did have 2 really nice assists in the Oilers game. Well, I remember one actually where he set up a Michkov goal. Just put a puck in his wheelhouse one-timer in the net. So he got points wise, he was putting some up early on, and through 8 games, again, he had 4 power play assists. But he'd be the first to tell you that his 5-on-5 play just was not very good. And honestly, when the Flyers played those 2 games against Boston, I thought that both he and Owen Tippett took steps forward, in particularly the one in Philly, which they lost 3-0. But I thought both guys look okay. This is a better game for them. They're getting more touches. They seem close. But whereas Tip went on to have the breakthrough games
Yeah.
after that, Morgan kind of slid back to where he was.
Yeah.
So I think that just based upon what your roster is, I think you need Morgan Frost producing and in the lineup, and also keeping in light of the fact that he's always been a bit of a slow starter, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
But 2 years ago, he really didn't get in. He really was in November. He was playing in the fourth line a lot. So although he was in the lineup, other than that one game in Toronto where he got scratched, he wasn't playing much. He was playing a lot of 10-minute games, 11-minute games. It's hard. It's hard as an
that deployment's not going to get him out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought it was the same thing pretty recently with Tyson Forster too. Really nice seeing Tyson get it going in against the Sabres, and hopefully they get him going a little bit too. But because Tyson was playing fourth line, and to me, playing 10, 11 minutes, it's very hard for guys who have to be your producers to produce under those situations. But anyway, with Morgan, he got going. I remember the date. It was December 6th of 2022-23. The final 56 games, he led the team in scoring. Last year, he got in the lineup. It was the Ed Snyder game, January 6th.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was leading the team in scoring until right near the end. Konecny ended up passing him, and I think Morgan had one less point than Tippett. So Morgan was third on the team. Konecny first, Tippett, and then Frost 1 point behind. But Frost led the team in assists. So you're talking about stretches of about 50 games and about 36 games. So he's shown that he can produce over stretches while there's inconsistency in there. To me, it's like a baseball player who you're counting on, and he comes out of April batting $150. You know, what the hell is going on? But so I have no issue with him being taken out of the lineup, particularly with the team winning a little bit right now. But I think just given the lack of center depth in the team, the lack of variety at center, I think Morgan still needs to be a piece of that. We'll see when he gets in the lineup, but he has to take advantage of that opportunity when that opportunity comes around again.
Yeah, I just wonder if there's too much scar tissue with his time here, and there's too much scar tissue on the brain, and you almost play scared because you're afraid you're going to get benched or you're afraid you're going to come out.
Yeah,
and the only way to relieve that scar tissue is, to move on. That's just the fact of the matter. Last thing, Bill, Matvei Michkov. I mean, the play he makes on the 2-on-0, I think is fantastic. First, it's a very showman play. He busts the zone, he gets out, and he looks back and connecting, and then he's like, come on, dude, like get up here. I want him to have a 2-on-0, which are kind of weird 2-on-0s, right? Because it's like, all right, are you going to pass to me? Am I going to shoot? Or am I going to try and come back to you? It's not like a natural play. They happen in practice all the time, but they're just like goofing off when they do them. So I always wonder about 2-on-0s, but the shoulder fake shot that Michkov throws, I mean, look, Levi has got to bite on it because he's got no choice.
Yeah.
And then the pass to Konecny is just perfect.
That was just artistic. I mean, that was the
kid is just also, he's a player, Bill.
For sure. And
Ottawa game too, the winner.
And somebody ran the video clip. I don't remember who ran it, but they showed that little 3/4 turn he did as he received the puck.
Yeah.
So he's always. I mean, that was just that was just gorgeous. That's just a pure offensive talent, And in the previous game, we had the breakaway goal. You don't want him or anybody else cherry picking too much, but you know what? He got behind the defense, and you knew once he received the puck and he had smooth sailing. I had no doubt he was scoring there.
Yeah. Did you see the shot that he took on Levi from below the goal line?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Off the mask, then the crossbar, and it didn't go in. But this guy will. I'm telling you, if the goalies that face the Flyers like to get pre-scout info and tendencies, you better be aware when that. It doesn't matter where he is, he will shoot, and he's shooting to score.
Yes, yeah. He can finish from just about any angle. I would say that, and I mean, Omar was not good.
Oh, he was hideous, Bill.
That was, especially for a goalie who was so good in Boston, and that was just awful in that game. But that being said, that was one heck of a shot from that. Like, I'm still not sure quite how he banked it in from that angle.
I think it hit right under his glove.
Yeah,
and just kind of like in his hip flex area and went through. It's
But
unbelievable.
he finds ways to do that.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be one of those guys who's going to score a lot of goals where you go, boy, that's a bad goal by the goalie. Then you remember who the shooter is. Like he
Yep.
finds ways. He finds ways.
He has done nothing to allay the anticipation of him being a superstar long term. I will tell you that at 19 years of age, he is all about the moment. I tell you, he got a little bite to him too. He likes to clap back a little bit. I know
so Celebrini, you don't want a penalty at the end of regulation going into overtime, but he won't back down.
No, he's got a lot of compete in him.
Yeah.
And he had a really good week. Well, we'll see what happens this week. As Eric Johnson coming up tonight will face his former team where he played 12 seasons, won a cup. For game 1001, he'll get a silver stick tonight. Again, like you said before, congratulations to Eric Johnson. It's been a pleasure getting to know him. He's really good human and good talker. I think there's some game left in there too, and I think the Flyers are a good beneficiary. Great way to start off the homestand tonight against Colorado. We'll recap it tomorrow, so join us then and read Bill's work on the recap as well on PhiladelphiaFlyers.com and NHL.com. And we'll be back tomorrow with a brand new episode of Flyers Daily.